so no one taught you how to budget. Well, in today's video, I'm going to teach you what a budget is, how to budget, and how to actually set up our budget so that we can achieve our financial goals. These tips that I use, they're very simple, not complicated, because I don't like complicated things. So without further ado, let's get into this video. A budget is a financial plan that tracks your income and expenses over a specific period of time. Step one in actually creating the budget is to determine your income. Now, for some people, that income comes from a job that they get paid once every week, every 2 weeks, every month. For other people, that income may come from a business that they own, or from social media, or if you're younger and, for example, your parents give you allowance monthly, weekly, bi-weekly, that is also considered income because it's money you're getting. So you could also create a budget using that money. So now that we've listed our sources of income, the next step is to actually track our expenses. Expenses can be categorized into two categories: fixed expenses and variable expenses. Fixed expenses are those expenses that are essential and unchanging. These include your rent, your car payment, insurance, mortgage, loan, debt repayment, and even your subscriptions. Variable expenses refer to those that can fluctuate. These include your groceries, shopping, entertainment, dining out. Why is it that groceries are considered variable expenses? This is because even though we can budget for groceries, sometimes we overspend or underspend. Subscriptions are considered fixed because for the most part, subscriptions charge you the same amount of money every single month. So now that we've actually categorized which expenses go under where, we'll have a better grasp at where gets our money most, where deserve less money, and how we could cut back on some expenses. Personally, I like to track my expenses manually, so I actually use an Excel spreadsheet. It works every time, but there are apps that you could use that could help you in analyzing the fixed versus the variable expenses and help you to create the spreadsheet. In my last money talk, I mentioned the 50-30-20 rule, and that's basically the general rule that people typically tell you to follow. If 50% goes to your needs, 30% goes to your wants, and 20% goes to debt repayment and or savings. I also mentioned in that video that you can adjust that per your needs. So if your needs are more, then it might have to go to 60, but if your needs are less, you might want to expand the savings category to 30, maybe even 40%. So again, use that rule and adjust it to your current financial situation. Just for the sake of this video, I'll be using the 50-30-20 rule so that we can analyze how we should properly budget our money. So as we mentioned, 50% will go to your needs. Let us say that we make $400 per month. Doing it per month just for something easier. Our rent comes to $100. Bills and groceries comes to another $100. Right there, we see that 50% of our money is going to our needs. We have $200 left. I would recommend putting the 20% to your debt repayment and savings first before analyzing the want section, because you could increase this amount depending on your style. Let's just say that your debt payments are $150. You know, instead of paying the bare minimum of $20, you might choose to pay $150 so that you could pay off your debts faster, which for some people is a smarter strategy, but for others it doesn't really work in their budget. And this is why budgets are unique, because it fits your current financial situation, no one else's but yours. So as we talked about, step 3 is really categorizing your expenses. Using the same example, 20% would go to your debt and savings. So that means $80 out of the $400 would be allocated to that 20%, and the rest, which would be $120, would go to your wants. Now, step 4 is actually very important because step 4 involves cutting down unnecessary spending. And I know, like, a lot of us don't want to hear that because it's like, what am I cutting down out of? Like, there's no room to cut down. The last makeup and money video that I posted, I talked about some ways in which we could actually cut back on spending. So I linked that video down below so that you could watch if you haven't watched it. But sometimes there are some expenses that we can cut down on that we don't even realize that we're spending. Another thing that's not talked about a lot is utilizing our cashback rewards that we get from our credit cards. So ultimately in step 4, we want to identify 2 to 3 areas in which we could cut down on some money so that we could either put more into our debt repayment or put more into our savings. Now, when creating a budget, it's important to identify what your goals are. So for some people, their goals are to pay off their debts. For other people, the goal is to retire early. But whatever that goal is, ensure that your budget actually fits around that goal. For example, let us say I want to pay off a certain debt by 30. I might say, okay, if my debt is $1,000, how much do I have to put every single month so that I could pay off this debt by the time I'm 30? For other people, the goal is to retire early, and so they want to ensure that they have a certain amount of savings before they actually hit retirement. So how much money can I save until I reach that age where I want to retire early? So identifying our goals is very important in this next step, which is to allocate money to our savings and debt payoff. There are two methods that you could use to pay off debt. There is the avalanche method and the snowball method. The avalanche method involves paying off debt based off of the highest interest rates. Ultimately, you're going to be saving money because the higher the interest rate, the higher the interest payment. So when you pay off the highest interest rate, you're ultimately saving yourself money over the years. The snowball method involves paying off the lowest debt first. This one typically brings more gratification because you're able to actually feel accomplished about paying off a debt. But the concept with the snowball method is that, let us say we have 5 debts. This is $100, this is 2, this is 3, 4, 500. Okay? And I'm going to pay off my lowest debt first. So I pay off this $100. I'm very happy because, hey, I only have 4 debts now, and I'm feeling relieved. But there's also something. I have $100 extra that I could put to this second debt because what? Now that I've gotten rid of this debt, it actually makes me have more money so that I could actually pay off these debts faster. So that's why a lot of people typically use the snowball method, because you realize that it frees up some money so that you could actually pay off your debts faster. Again, something that I constantly talk about in this video is to make your budget fit your needs. Use a debt payoff strategy that works for you. I know for a lot of people, savings are not priority because, between debt and your necessities, there is no room for savings. Even saving the smallest amount of money, it will set you up good in years to come. Step 6 involves an emergency fund. When analyzing the 20%, which is our debt repayment and savings, remember to save room for emergency fund. So our savings should be separate from our emergency fund. Savings we utilize for later in life. Emergency fund, it's something that is there in case of any single emergency. Personally, I love to create a budget every 2 weeks to match my pay schedule. Doing it every 2 weeks allows me to actually know which bills are due when, and it allows me to actually readjust my budget as needed. This is going to be our next step. Remember to track and adjust your budget as you need. It's very important that we review our budget. It allows us to see if we're overspending or underspending. If we're overspending, then we have to determine where should we actually cut our expenses so that we could be right on target. And if we're underspending, it says to us, okay, maybe we could put some more money in debt repayment or savings or travel or something else that intrigues us. Remember guys, a budget is a living document. Adjust it per your needs, adjust it for your financial situation, adjust it for your goals. And remember to stay consistent. The only way to actually see success with this budget is if you stay consistent. If you're not consistent, the budget won't work for you. But if you are consistent, best believe that budget will work for you. Something to also incorporate in our 30% want is something fun, because after sticking to this financial constraint, it is important that we reward ourselves for all the hard work that we're putting in. It takes time to actually put together a budget. It takes time to actually strictly follow this budget. So reward yourself, but don't try to make the budget too strict. Try to observe the things that you follow in the budget, but don't try to restrict yourself putting groceries for $40 when it's impossible to spend $40 on groceries. So make the budget realistic. When you make the budget realistic, it's easier to follow. So if you follow this plan closely, you'll be able to achieve your financial goals, whether that is to pay off your debts sooner, to build your savings, to retire early. You can do all of this while still enjoying life. So these are the simple steps that I follow to budget, and I try not to overcomplicate it. So y'all, the makeup is all done. Let me know if you have any more questions about anything budget related, anything finances related. Again, I'm no professional. These are just some things that I've been using so that I can retire early, because your girl does not want to work until she's 75. Feel free to leave some comments down below, and if you guys want a sample budget Excel spreadsheet that I use, I could definitely make one and link it down below. So let me know. I love y'all so much. Bye y'all.